NAIA football is the true version of what college football is supposed to be. And it is the best classroom experience an 18 to 22-year-old male can have. One of the most valuable parts of a college education is that experience. It's life in a microcosm, and it's just something special for a young man to have to experience.
And don't you let a moment go without thinking about what's there for you to reach out and grasp.
Welcome into another edition of Victory Sports Network's NAIA Football with Dannelly and Donley. I am your host, Jason Dannelly. Thank you for joining us for all your NAIA football-centric news, updates, views, opinions, predictions, all those things. We're doing them on the show. We do them each and every week. And we appreciate everybody that checks out this show week over week. As it happens, we get through the playoffs, fewer teams start advancing, and maybe we have a couple fewer people. But I know there's some diehards out there. They're on this each and every week. Thank you, diehard fans of NAIA Football with Dannelly and Donley, for checking this out. So we're going to preview we're going to preview the semifinals and review the quarterfinals here tonight. And of course, to help me do that is the co-host of this program, Mr. Pat Donley. Pat, hello. Welcome in.
Jason, good to see you again. What great games. What great performances. We had great unit performances, great defensive games, a couple great individual performances, but overall, what a wonderful day of NAIA football yesterday.
Teams going on the road, getting victories in the quarterfinals. It's tough to do. We saw two of them do it. Maybe in one game, not as expected as the other one. But we'll get to all that. I loved it. It was a great day of football. I also liked how the schedule went off for me. I like to try to watch the games live and then, of course, go back on Huddle, watch them later. First game, 11 o'clock Eastern. Then we weren't starting our second game until noon Central. And then, of course, the last game with Montana Western and Morningside was a little bit later. So I was really able to kind of get through all the games live and as they were happening. Kaiser, Georgetown, I popped in and out of a little bit, but I was able to watch that on Huddle later on. A great scheduling layout to be able to check out all four games live if you're an NAIA football fan.
It was definitely conducive for our schedules.
Yes.
Not having to do multiple screens and that sort of things. It's kind of hard to do that. You want to dive deep and focus on the game in hand. And I had the iPad out driving around Northwest Ohio for hockey yesterday, but I was watching games and even took the iPad in the rink and got a little the end of the great Montana Western and Morningside game. So yeah, just a great day of football. Just these teams were fantastic, great football games, and like you said, so many cool stories, the backstories with travel and, some great matchups. So excited to jump into it and talk about this great week.
Yeah, Pat and I were talking in the green room before the show, and we're like, it just seems easier tonight. It's 4 games that we're talking to recap and then 2 games that we're previewing. It's so much easier than, what we were doing a couple of weeks ago, trying to get all the regular season wrapped up, get into the postseason. We can actually enjoy it and enjoy talking about it. As always, we thank our good friends at Huddle for providing us with a direct exchange account that allows NAIA football teams to send us all the videos of all the games that we want to be able to check out, whether it is for postseason, whether it's for regular season, or if you're like me and you start trying to figure out who's going to be on that All-American team and you request a little film to get another look at a guy, we're able to do it thanks to our good friends at Huddle. Pat, I know you love this.
Total game changer. Thank you so much. It was great to watch you all 22 to really break down these schemes and these great performances. And, you get to rewind plays and just, kind of, dig a little deeper of what's going on. So just fantastic. Love Huddle.
Yeah, absolutely great. Let's get into, in no particular order how I put these games in there. Let's get into the game that I kind of thought coming in, we could see, the biggest upset potentially of the first round, of the quarterfinal round, that being Northwestern going to Grandview. Northwestern had really ran the ball well the last couple of weeks, and I felt like if they're able to run the football the way they did against Montana Tech, they're going to be able to go into Grandview and make a little noise, give a little push to Grandview and see if they can maybe jar that offense to have to score a few more points. And Grandview's defense shut down the run. They shut down the pass. They shut down Northwestern in this game, held them scoreless, and I believe this was the fourth or fifth shutout of the year for Grandview. A great performance, by their defense to come out and just really put the clamps on the Red Raiders in this game.
There's no doubt. We're going to talk about the teams that are remaining, how good these defenses are, and this one statistically is the best. Watching this game very closely and watching the All-22, they are really, really good in the front seven.
Yeah.
I mean, the D-line, the linebackers, we had an old saying, Jason, if you're fast at linebacker, you're fast on defense. And these guys are. I think they play outstanding sound run defense. And like you said, Jason, if Northwestern could have some semblance of run game with a young quarterback, Northwestern had a chance, and that was absolutely eliminated. Duncan did some things. You can see what's there, the potential there, but he had some freshman moments. Of course, he was put in difficult situations in passing scenarios, obvious pass situations because they were behind the sticks a lot with that great defense, and in particular the run defense. And Duncan, had some chances maybe to pull the trigger and wasn't comfortable, took off and ran a lot. And that just played right into the hands of the Viking defense. They're awfully good, Jason. They're going to be tough to score on for anybody.
Yeah. Duncan did run the ball well at times. He had a scramble, 40-plus yards, I believe, finished with 88 yards on the ground, 96 yards through the air. And again, this was, you look at two teams that great defenses, decent skill position players on both sides of the ball, good skill position players on both sides of the ball. But the difference between senior quarterback and true freshman quarterback, and you don't want to put it on a true freshman kid. I mean, you got everything you're going to get out of a kid coming in his first year, and what he's got to do in a big situation like this. He can grow from that. He can get better from that. And I think Northwestern will. But I think the key to this is in the first quarter, Northwestern had their best opportunity to try to get points on the board. They got all the way down inside the red zone, believe down to the 7-yard line, had it 3rd and 1, got stopped, had it 4th and 1, and got stopped. And so they turned the ball over on downs back to Grandview. That was the last time Northwestern got in the red zone. I think they got to the 24, 25-yard line at another point in the game, but then ended up turning the ball over on downs. They just didn't get very many opportunities, and that's what Grandview has done all season long. They've limited their opponents' opportunities. Some of the best opportunities that the opponents have gotten have honestly been sometimes when the offense has turned the ball over, or they haven't maybe had a special teams mistake and ended up with a short field. Grandview's defense doesn't make very many mistakes. There's not many times that they're going to give up 70, 80 yards on a drive, and when Northwestern got that opportunity early in this game, they were unable to capitalize, and that was about the best opportunity they had offensively. And I think the key statistic, throw the freshman quarterback out of this, Connor McQuillan, veteran running back, a guy that has been, one of your favorite players to watch, one of my favorite players to watch, 7 carries, 30 yards. If that just tells you there wasn't a lot happening up front for this Northwestern offense to be able to run the football.
If I'm not mistaken, Jason, I think McQuillan had a long run. I think that was the most significant portion of that 30 yards.
Yeah.
He had a 16-yard run or something of that nature. I do want to credit Northwestern's defense, Jason. I thought this was a great battle of very, very good defenses up front. I thought the front sevens, both defending the run, were fantastic. And Waring was good when he had to be. Made some big 3rd down throws. I remember the red zone was efficient enough. This was definitely a defensive battle. And, what offense could put some semblance of a drive together and, put points on the board when they could. And like you mentioned early in the game, Northwestern got down there and just, it was like the air out of the balloon once again, 3rd down and 1, 4th down and 1. You just kind of see them go, oh, that was our shot to kind of give us some mojo and get a score. And that may be a different game, honestly, Jason. I think if they can do that to gain that confidence. But I think what you said it perfectly. I think when you get right down to it, and not to put it all on Duncan, but he is a freshman. And that was quite a challenge going against that defense as an 18 or maybe 19-year-old, and Waring's a senior. So totally agree with you in that breakdown, that analysis.
And regardless of how good Northwestern's defense played, they were unable really force any turnovers or get any turnovers to give them maybe that spark and that opportunity. And that you put on a senior quarterback like Jackson Waring. He just didn't make mistakes. 12 of 21 passing isn't lighting the world on fire. 154 yards isn't lighting the world on fire. Neither's 47 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns that were basically pushes into the, well, he had 1 push into the end zone and 1 nice little scramble to get in the end zone as well. But not eye-popping numbers offensively for Grandview, but I think Grandview's fine with that. I think Grandview's like hey, we're going to do what we need to do to win this game. We're not going to, have 450 yards passing. We're going to win 17-0, and it's going to seem like it was 34-0.
Mm-hmm. Certainly dominant. Later on, again, there's no scoring in the second half, but I mean, just Grandview just put the clamps on things, and they're going to lean on that defense and close things out. That's what they did.
Yeah. Defensively, John Argo at linebacker was the Hart North Defensive Player of the Year. He had a great game. There's several other guys on defense kind of came through. Davier Jones was a guy that kind of showed up this week, had 7 tackles, played very well. That front defensive line, I mean, those guys are constantly, in the backfield. Aaron Brown's a guy that, had 3 tackles, 2.5 of them were for losses, and he forced a fumble. I mean, there's just, like you said, there's speed, there's physicality, there's bulk on that front defensive line. So they are going to, it's going to be a fun game next round against Morningside. And we'll break that down a little later.
Heck of a battle. Looking forward to that one.
All right, let's get into our next game to break down, that being Georgetown at Kaiser. And kind of a little bit of the same, a little more offense from Georgetown in this game than what Northwestern was able to put on the board. And early on, Georgetown kind of traded blows a little bit there with Kaiser, had it tied up 7-7. And then Kaiser just really put the clamps on them. And I thought the important thing that Kaiser did, when Georgetown had success on offense, they were operating out of 2nd and 6, 2nd and 4. What Kaiser really did in the second and third quarters to put the clamps down on them is they were making it 2nd and 15. They were making it 2nd and 10. They weren't giving them any yards on first down, and that forced Georgetown to change that game plan a little bit and put it on the arm of Slonaker. And Slonaker, 6 for 20 passing, 112 yards. A lot of that was, they weren't getting a lot underneath that didn't seem pat. They were having to, kind of air things out, and the defensive backs for Kaiser were running step for step with their wide receivers the entire time. So great job by Kaiser's defense, I thought, to take Georgetown out of what they were comfortable with doing on offense and put the clamps down on the run game.
Talk about speed on defense. Holy moly. Kaiser can run. And the thing about Kaiser that is interesting, they're going to devote those 7 in the box to defend the run, and they're going to lock you up on the outside. I mean, my dad used to make a joke. He used to call it, "Hey, Pat, they're playing him coverage." I go, "Dad, him coverage? Him cover?" He goes, "No, they got him. He's got him. He's got him. They're going to man up, basically. I got him. You got it." And then they're going to play the stout run defense within the box, but they're going to lock you up on the perimeter. And I want to give Coach Oliver and his staff a lot of credit. I think this was a great season because, Jason, I'm going to be very honest with you. There's not a lot of speed at Georgetown. They couldn't get behind Kaiser even remotely. They were not separating at all in the passing game. Again, Slonaker took shots. They have to take shots. But there was just no opportunity. I mean, it was like, Kaiser really never had to get up a back pedal or, in man coverage, they're in trail position and they're just like kind of just coasting with them. There wasn't like any threat vertically down the field. And if it wasn't Neal in the run game on those first downs, like you mentioned, to make it advantageous, third down scenarios, there wasn't a whole lot there. Because if you're in third and long against these guys, I mean, they're going to pin their ears back and pass rush. They're going to lock you up on the perimeter, and good luck. I mean, that's what this team can do. And I'm not so sure. I mean, I think I'm going to talk about Benedictine a little bit later on, but this is a team that can 100% do that against anyone that they're going to play. Well, they're going to match up on the perimeter and say, you know what, beat us. Good luck. Yeah. I don't think many can. I mean, they are that good on the perimeter, and they run so well collectively. It's going to be a challenge. And we haven't talked about their offense yet. I mean, like Kaiser is an exceptional team speed. And their approach defensively is one of those. It's like, there's not much we can do, guys. I'll be honest with you, because they're better than us on the perimeter. They just are. and it's going to be tough sledding, grinding out 3 and 4 yard carries, because they're pretty darn good in the box too. So as an offensive coordinator, I've been there, man. Like, guys, we can't get much on them. They're just a lot better. I mean, that's kind of how I felt watching this game. And I got to give the credit to the Tigers, because it's a great season. The travel's brutal. I can't imagine doing what they did back-to-back weeks, driving both times, Jason. I mean, I'm like, really? That's what we're going to do, huh? That's tough, man. I don't care. You're taking 90 people back-to-back trips set to South Florida, 12, 14 hours away. That is really hard to do. And it looked like it a little bit. So I don't think it really much mattered, to be honest with you. But just my feeling on it.
Yeah, you did mention one thing about how Kaiser was just forcing third and long situations, and how good they were there. Statistically, 2 for 11 is what Georgetown was on third down. So only converted 2 third downs in the game. 232 yards total offense. Pretty stout defense they're up against. This is why Kaiser's the defending national champions, why they've been number 1 the entire year. People will want to say, oh, who have they played? Well, they beat 2 D2 teams. They beat a playoff team in St. Thomas and a borderline playoff team in Southeastern. And they did the same thing to those teams. They ran the football on offense. Their defense locked things down. And their defense, they give up yards. We'll see it statistically. They give up yards, but they don't give up scores. They give up yards between the 20 and the 40. And then it's like, nope, we're done now. And they proved that again here. All right, so you and I, again, in the green room, talking a little bit before the show. We're talking about Kaiser's offense. And you said, their quarterback, man, he's good. Who's he remind you of? And I was about to say, Tyler Emmert, Carroll College, and you're like, Tyler Emmert, Carroll College. And the way, and I've been trying to put my finger on it kind of all year, but then really watching this game against Georgetown, watching how he'd sit in the pocket, have such poise, deliver the ball, watch him get a little bit of pressure, how he'd roll out, get to one side and drop a dime back to the other side, hitting these deep out patterns to catch guys on the sideline. Just such a smart, heady player. And then the other thing, the next time that you watch the film, watch what he does after plays and after scores. He's the first one in the end zone. He's jumping up in guys' arms. He's hooping. He's hollering. I mean, this is the definition of having a leader at quarterback. And I think it's probably the biggest difference between this team last year that won the national title and the team that this year is on their way to winning the national title, is they're getting such good quarterback play out of Shea Spencer.
Love Shea Spencer. I thought there was great quarterback play, all around yesterday, but he might have been the best. I mean, I thought from what he was asked to do, let's go back. I mean, we know this team is fantastic. They won the national championship last year. Watching them, we really kind of, we started the show in October last year, Jason, kind of jumped right in and, started obviously looking at Kaiser. It's like, this team is on the rise. My goodness, they're good. Played in the national championship the year before. They're a darn good team. But they insulated the quarterback. They were not asking the quarterback to do a heck of a lot. It was all run game, baby. It was inside, outside zone, gap schemes, bootleg occasionally to kind of keep them honest, and maybe a play action shot once a quarter. That's what it was. And it was 260 yards on the ground, and that's what they did. Totally different this year. Totally different. They are in 11 personnel, so they're in the gun the vast majority of the time, probably 95% of the time. It looks like a modern offense. There's RPO elements like modern football, like you're seeing everywhere on Saturdays and even Sundays, where that quarterback has options to pull the ball and throw the ball down the field. 2 red zone touchdowns in the passing game will run pass option RPOs. There's a lot on Spencer's plate, and he is fantastic. He knows this system, and we're going to talk about Dooley later on from Benedictine. Those 2 guys, I think this guy knows his system at Kaiser as well as anyone, inside and out. And detail. You can see the run game checks that he's making at the line of scrimmage too in the run game, and then what he's asked to do with throwing the football. He is calm, cool, collected, and delivers consistently over and over again. And this team is real good. And we're not seeing Meisinger.
Correct.
Didn't see Meisinger at all. But I tell you what, they got Burnett and Miller aren't too bad. Burnett looks like a darn Clydesdale running through people. 6'2", 225. I mean, he's a horse. They're so good up front. They've got weapons on the perimeter. And if you get quarterback play like Shea Spencer, his performance yesterday, if you can get that 2 more times, we're talking back-to-back national champions. But they're going to get tested here again. And these Final Four teams are fantastic, Jason. But great performance top to bottom by Kaiser yesterday, in particular Shea Spencer. Fantastic.
Yeah. Yep. I thought Spencer has played very well, very efficient the entire year. I'll ask I'll bring up a question in overtime. So I'm going to pin that. I know I want to ask you about it, but we're going to keep the viewers around for a little later, huh? The old radio tease there.
The old tease.
The old tease. This game, Benedictine, Indiana Wesleyan. How about the Ravens coming into Marion, Indiana, saying, I don't care you haven't lost a game since 2021 here. I don't care that you literally blew the doors off of nearly every NAIA competitor they faced this year. Closest game was a week ago. Benedictine showed up and said, guess what? We played Grandview this year. We beat Morningside on the road. We lost to one other playoff team and beat another playoff team. We ain't scared of you. And the Ravens balled out, took advantage of some mistakes early on, got up 14-0 in the first quarter, held on to a 17-0 lead all the way to the fourth quarter. And then I felt like there was a little bit of a spark from Indiana Wesleyan in that fourth quarter that got you thinking, maybe. But the Ravens just held them down. Their defense showed up big. Again, another defense that statistically is not one of the best in the country, but they show up and they make plays when they needed to. And, creating the turnovers that they did. Kyle Antoine, 3 interceptions, 211 yards on the day. That is a fantastic defensive performance to force him into those situations, hold him and those fantastic wide receivers like Levi Tidwell and Isaac Smith down, and do what Benedictine did to get this win, Pat.
Yeah, this is a head scratcher for me. Anyway, I want to go back to this. If the season ended in mid-October, Indiana Wesleyan was probably the best team, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they were like, go down and play Kaiser, neutral site, or in Florida. This is going to be a slugfest. I thought they were that good. They had, I'm not going to bring up the loss they had with Valparaiso. I'm not going to bring that up. But maybe some of those things, I have not watched that film, but maybe some of the things that kind of maybe reared its ugly head happened in this game. There was some sloppiness, I thought, from Indiana Wesleyan. Drop balls.
Yeah.
There were some fumbles after plus plays. I really think the world of the perimeter players, the receiving core for Indiana Wesleyan, but there were some balls that were dropped. There was a play, 20, 25-yard gain, kind of making a play, and then fumble the ball. And they're approaching the red zone early in the game. Kind of unfortunate. I wouldn't say they were bad footballs. There may have been a couple balls that Antoine threw that had a little more pace than probably what receivers were, assuming was coming at them. Ball gets tipped in the air. Interceptions, short fields. It was a clumsy first half for Indiana Wesleyan. It's probably the best way I can put it. And they did some good things. I think Whitwell was a freaking monster. I thought he was awesome. I thought he had one of the best, running back performances of the day. He and Andrew Burnett, I thought, were really exceptional yesterday. And really good player. Really, really good player. But it's just kind of sloppy. And to put it on the positive side with Benedictine, what they have done, Jason, back-to-back weeks, going to Fort Worth, Texas, from Atchison, Kansas, right?
Atchison, Kansas,
Yeah,
just north of Kansas City, but we'll call it an hour.
You're going to Fort Worth, Texas, and then you were essentially the following week. That has to be 15 hours. You're talking going between Fort Wayne and Indianapolis is where Marion, Indiana is. You do that back-to-back weeks and beat two teams like they beat, that is incredible. And we're going to talk about Morningside's great victory against Montana Western, but I'm telling you right now, Jason, I can't remember back-to-back weeks in tough circumstances like Benedictine has done and come out with two victories. That's incredible. I was a part of some great football teams, Jason, had to go on the road. We've never done anything like that. That is very, very difficult to do. And I can't remember many ever doing that. The Texas to Indiana next week and beating top 5 opponents or top 6 opponents. Was that what Texas Wesleyan was, 6 maybe? That's like unheard of. I mean, that's really, really impressive. And this team is hot. They're getting hot at the right time. They're playing good enough on defense. They did some things like Kaiser, Jason. They've got some perimeter guys on defense. I tell you what, locked down many, many times the Wildcat receivers who are, they're formidable, and they kind of slowed them down. There wasn't many big plays behind them. I thought they were really good. And, they created some of those turnovers too. Some of those errant throws and ball placement that got tipped in the air, and they were there and made plays when they had the opportunity. But very, very impressive victory. Very,
Yes.
in my opinion.
Here's what I think. People look at Benedictine and they're in the heart, and they had a week 0 win over Morningside that everybody's long forgot about, and they played Mid-American Nazarene and Baker. The thing that I really want to point to is, they went on the road to Morningside and won. They went to Mid-American Nazarene, lost on a 2-point conversion in a driving rain after, having a 90-yard touchdown return on a kickoff at the end of that game. They lost that one, but they were on the road. They went to Texas Wesleyan, won on the road. They went to Indiana Wesleyan, won on the road. So this is a team that throw whatever at them. Fine, bring it. We'll do it. And I'm looking forward. We'll preview the game here in a little bit that they've got coming up this week in the semifinals. But, credit to Coach Osborne, his staff, the entire crew at Benedictine for making this happen. Back-to-back road weeks, and then to have your quarterback go out and play the way that he did. And also to not be so impatient with the game plan early on. I look at it as I'm a PlayStation quarterback, and if I get that pick and that turnover early in the game from Indiana Wesleyan, I'm going end zone. I've got Gathright. I've got some great wide receivers. I've got Jashawn Todd. I got some really good speed that I can throw the ball to on the outside, and I'm going to bomb. And then you end up 2nd and 10. Well, then maybe you end up 3rd and 10. Those first 2 drives where they scored, they stuck with the running game. They're giving it to Witherspoon. They're giving it to Ugorji. These guys are running the football, and then Dooley gets in, for kind of the push into the end zone there. So credit to Coach Osborne and Benedictine sticking to the plan, establishing that run early on, and really just taking it right at Indiana Wesleyan's front 7 and pushing them down the field early in the game to get that 14-0 advantage. I mean, this was one of the, I don't want to say it's a big upset, but they went on the road, the 3 versus 9. Not a lot of people thought Benedictine would go into Indiana Wesleyan and get this win, especially the folks in Marion. The fans definitely weren't thinking that, but just outstanding by Benedictine this week.
I thought Dooley, again, we've not talked about their offense. You mentioned a little bit Jason Benedictine, but Dooley is just that calm, cool customer that, again, much like Shea Spencer, knows their system inside and out. I thought he was exceptional. How many times did there may have been flush from a pocket in a conversion situation, he takes off and gets necessary yards, or just extends the play enough to make a play. And very rarely put the ball in harm's way. Just very, very smart, knows the system, like I mentioned, just executed very well. And I'll say one more thing about the Ravens, Jason. I like this matchup coming up, and we're getting to matchups because they can run. They can run. They have speed on both sides of the football on the perimeter. And I thought that was a huge, huge difference. You're watching the game. It's like Benedictine's faster than Indiana Wesleyan. I mean, that was my view on it watching the all 22. It's like, you know what? Boy, this team that's 11-1 and has all these offensive statistics, and it's like this team is traveling the road again. They're faster, and they just got off the bus for 15 hours or whatever it was. That was noticeable to me, and I was surprised by that, honestly, Jason. Seeing both teams and against other opponents, then you see them together play. Obviously the matchup. You're like, my goodness, like Wesleyan's or Benedictine's faster, just collectively. Whoever's carrying the ball, whoever's running the route one-on-one. I mean, there was some speed difference there, I thought, with Benedictine. I was kind of surprised by that, truthfully. But what a road victory. It's incredible.
Yeah, Eric checking in, Benedictine fan. O-line fantastic against Indiana Wesleyan's deep defensive line in front 7. 40 minutes time of possession in this game. Yeah, they had the ball for 40 minutes. Indiana Wesleyan only had the ball for 20 minutes in this game. I'm not a huge believer in time of possession because depending on the type of offense you run, you don't need it very long sometimes.
Sure.
But in this game, that's a huge statistic. They kept the ball out of Indiana Wesleyan's hand and didn't give one of the best offenses in the country a chance to come back. So credit to them for that.
Third and fourth quarter, no question, you noticed that. absolutely grind drives. They were really smart. Again, go back to Dooley, just smart managing the clock. Snapping the football with 2 on the clock throughout the fourth quarter. Smart. That quarter seemed like, Jason, was it 3 possessions? I mean, it was like a blink of an eye. That thing was over. So, yeah, I think Eric hit the nail on the head with that possession time, especially late in the game. No question with the lead.
We go to this one, Morningside, Montana Western. All sorts of storylines here. GPAC champion versus Frontier champion Steve Ryan going up against Ryan Norris. They used to coach together at Morningside. You've got both teams that, we thought had national championship potential type offenses. What could their defenses do? A whole bunch of storylines in this game. In the first half, it really looked like we were going to see that Montana Western was going to handle Morningside, keep them down, take advantage of maybe some turnovers that were popping up again for Morningside. And then second half, completely different ball team came out for Morningside. Most of it, I think, on that very first possession of the second half, Morningside's able to force a turnover with that fantastic defensive line getting after Palandri. Force a fumble. They score on the next drive, put up 14 in the fourth quarter. They got this victory. Tale of two halves, and Morningside ends out on top of this one. I'll let you give your analysis of it, but I was very impressed with how Morningside played second half of this game.
Just watching this game, like you mentioned, Jason, tale of two halves. I thought Palandri and company were fantastic the first half. I mean, just clockwork. If you could have the game plan be executed any better in a playoff game against the Morningside, I mean, one of the blue blood programs, Bulldogs did it. I mean, there's no doubt. I thought they were that sharp in a variety of ways. What they do, it's not easy what they do. I'll say this, Jason. Yes, they do have a run game, and it's there. But this is very much Palandri dropping back, reading a concept. What's the coverage? Here's my progression. The ball's going to go to the right guy. And they do it really, really well. Better than anybody in the country, in my opinion. I will say that. I think they're better at that than anyone else. Having to drop back and make decisions, Palandri is asked to do the most and does it very well. And they do a lot of different ways down the field. And again, concepts, very, very good. And then it's like Morningside woke up, great national championship staff. Head coach has won 3 national titles and made the proper adjustments. I got to give credit to Coach Jacobson, who's a great dude, one of all-time greats. And just that defensive performance, like you said, you could see the tide turn at the beginning of the second half, and Morningside's defense just take over. I mean, there was a pass rush that was significant. And again, for what the Bulldogs do, that is what takes that away. You disrupt timing. You don't let Palandri sit back there and read his concept, read the coverage, deliver the proper route to the open receiver. If you can't do that because of timing issues, because of pass rush, it doesn't work. And you saw that time and time again. And this was very, very impressive road victory. The second half just tremendous by Morningside. Tale of two halves, but a great game to watch. Again, I think the most fun game I watched yesterday was this one. But yeah, Morningside's rolling again too, Jason. I mean, again, to have that resolve to travel the way they did, you're down, 24-10 at half. You're like, okay, what are we doing here? Come out, have the resolve, shut them out in the second half. Arguably the best offense in the entire country, and to win a football game like that is very impressive. And national championship staff, one of the all-time great NAIA football coaches with Coach Ryan, got it done, baby. We were talking back and forth. I text you. I won't say what I text you. Basically, freaking Steve Ryan, man, found a way to win a game like this, and it's not easy, folks. I mean, to do that with the travel and playing a team like this, and the way that first half went, to come back and show that character resolve, you got to tip your cap. That's tremendous.
I'll talk about their offense first. Zach Chevalier. I don't want to sound like I've griped on it all year, but I'm like, Chevalier can be the best quarterback in the NAI if he doesn't turn the ball over. And there's times where, he'll sling it, man. He's got that Brett Favre kind of attitude. I think he tries to force some throws in, maybe where they shouldn't go. And it resulted in a couple interceptions. Only one really, hurt them as they were going into halftime, and they had an opportunity to score. But this kid has slung it all year long. He's the leading passer in the NAIA. You got to give a lot of credit to, what he has done, inside this offense. And this was a kid that was, part of the program last year. They were really a year ago couldn't figure out what direction they wanted to go at quarterback. And this is Chevalier's first year, fully immersed as the starting quarterback after kind of coming in. We were talking about this pre-show. I don't know if you knew this, but he's an Iowa Wesleyan kid. When Iowa Wesleyan killed their program, he transferred over. So Chevalier is a kid that's got a little bit of experience, has really done well this year, and I think he's gotten better as time has progressed. I think Max Huff as a running back has picked up a load this year. Granted, only 62 yards rushing, but it seems like when the ball is given to Max Huff, he runs with purpose. He's getting positive yards. He's getting 2, 3, 4, 5 yards. He had a long of 15 in this game. But they are establishing themselves at the line of scrimmage when he's running the football. And they've got 3 wide receivers that all complement one another very nicely. Drew Sellen is a kid that gets a lot of receptions and goes for a lot of yards. A 63-yard touchdown in this game certainly helps you get to that 182-yard total. But he's been a kid that's been doing it all year long, along with Zach Norton. Norton has been a guy that has been a mainstay there. He had over 100 yards receiving. And I think the mentality out there was that, well, Lennox Brown isn't playing quarterback for him now. He was such a great athlete for him at quarterback. He is going to be the guy at wide receiver. And he's really like that possession guy, that go into traffic sort of guy, gets banged around. He had 4 catches, including a touchdown and 41 yards. Each one of those guys complements one another so well in this passing game for Morningside that, they're going to be a tough battle for Grandview this next round. And we'll get into breaking that game down a bit. But we talked about all the offense, and their offense is fantastic. The overlooked part of this team is their defense, their front seven, especially that defensive line. We watched them against Dort stunt the living heck out of the front there and get a lot of pressure on the quarterback. They did the same thing against Northwestern, and in the second half here against Montana Western, they disrupted what Michael Palandri wanted to do as a quarterback, and a ton of credit goes to that defense. I mean, this was a great performance. Morningside going on the road and getting the win.
Awesome. And I couldn't agree more, Jason, with Chevalier. It's just his year. I mean, you look at last year, and it's like they couldn't figure out, like you mentioned, you said all the things that you said, and you're exactly right. It's like, but Chevalier's now just kind of getting more comfortable. It's taken him this long. I mean, yeah, he's a conference player of the year, but even early in the season, they dropped the first game of the year. And he had some struggles. I mean, he turned the ball over in that game, the loss to Benedictine, and had some turnovers, like you said, in kind of the bigger games, the big GPAC games throughout the year. He was conference player of the year because he had tremendous numbers. But you're seeing now, I think there's more confidence. I think he's trusting what he's seeing and delivering the ball more accurately to the right people. I even see that they're a big run-pass option team. Against the buzzword, most people probably don't even realize what that is. There's a lot of variations of run-pass option in that, okay, am I looking at numbers in the box? I'm going to throw screens on the perimeter. Or if I'm looking at one defender, I'm reading that isolation. Is he going to play the run? Do I pull and throw? Or if he's sitting back, I hand the football. Chevalier made some poor decisions early in the season, just an RPO game, reading one defender, just trying to force something that wasn't there. And you mentioned that, Jason. And you're seeing now he's placing the ball where it needs to go. And his decision-making is stronger. Ball placement into certain coverages is better. You're seeing that these last handful of weeks, much, much better than the first half of the season. So he's getting hot. This Mustang offense is really hot. And like you mentioned too, they've got a great front seven that it's going to travel. And this is going to be an unbelievable semifinal matchup in the great state of Iowa.
Yeah, we'll get into them. Semifinal round comes up this Saturday. We got 2 home sites. Kaiser's going to be hosting. Grandview's going to be hosting. That's the advantage of being number 1 and number 2 in the country. I like both of these matchups. I think that it's going to lead to some very interesting games for some of the reasons that we've talked about. Getting into this first game, Benedictine at Kaiser. Pat, we talked about a lot of things. Benedictine, a lot of speed.
Yeah.
That is one thing that Kaiser also has a lot of. So let's see what Atchison, Kansas speed versus West Palm Beach speed does. If I'm a fan of Kaiser and I'm down in Florida, I would not be looking past what this Benedictine team can do on offense and defense with their speed.
I totally agree, Jason. I'm not saying Benedictine's going to go on the road 3 straight weeks and beat another top 5 opponent. I'm not saying that. But what I am going to say is this. This is the most difficult matchup Kaiser's had in some time, probably since at least St. Thomas. That's just my opinion. I did not watch the Division II games, the two games that they won. But I'm going to tell you from a matchup standpoint, and watching the game this week and the previous week at Texas Wesleyan with Benedictine, they have legitimate speed that I think at least can contest the great cover people that Kaiser have. I think those receivers that Benedictine has they can go. I mean, it's no joke. And I think Kaiser is going to be certainly challenged. I mean, Kaiser sometimes think have a back pedal, you know what I mean? Or they're just kind of like jogging man coverage because they're so fast. They're going to have to run this week. And the same thing on the flip side of that, Jason, where I think Benedictine on the perimeter on defense can lock up receivers and challenge receivers to make things difficult in the passing game. And we know Kaiser's a run offense first, but, they have effective play action game, and Shea Spencer delivers the ball down the field in the passing game as well. So this is a interesting matchup because there is actual speed on both sides of the skill positions.
Yeah, I look at, what Kaiser does up front defensively. They're going to get pressure on Dooley. I think we know that. If Benedictine is able to establish some sort of run game to take the pressure off of trying to get it, outside all the time to their fantastic wide receivers, I really think they will have a chance to win this one. Kaiser, they give up 230 yards on the ground running the ball. That sometimes that number gets a little bit inflated because they just get into some games where they give up some yards, but they just don't give up any points. I think Benedictine will have a real shot against Kaiser if they're able to establish that run just a little bit to take some of the pressure off of Dooley having to sling it all the time. I think if you've got to be in a game where Benedictine needs to throw for 400 yards to try to win it, it's going to be very tough against Kaiser. But on the flip side, this Benedictine defense, they're the kind of the same thing. They give up 361 yards. Their rushing defense is a lot better than what people give them credit for. Now, they do play in a league where teams are going to air it out a little bit more, and so some of those numbers are a little bit inflated, but Benedictine has done a good job of shutting down the run. You look at what they did against Texas Wesleyan, and Ernest Caesar, one of the better running backs in the NAIA, I think 30 yards, 40 yards, something like that. The running game was a non-factor for Texas Wesleyan in that game. So Benedictine has shown that they can go in, shut down the run. Heck, they were able to limit what Indiana Wesleyan wanted to do running the football. I mean, granted, Ryan Whitwell was able to get over 100 yards, but usually you got two guys that are over 100 yards in that for that team, or two guys even potentially pushing 200 yards. So Benedictine's rushing defense, I feel like they're going to slow down Kaiser a little bit, and this is a game that I fully expect Kaiser's going to get the win. But I think people, if they just look at the numbers and they go, 11-2, number 1 versus number 9, Kaiser's going to handle them. This is going to be a 24-17, 24-20, 21-17 sort of game, I feel like, Pat. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like I mentioned before, I think Kaiser will out-athlete a team for a couple scores a game, where I think now Benedictine matches up with them. I really do. And I think Benedictine can get behind Kaiser for a score or two. And I'll be honest with you, you want to talk about great quarterback play. And in both of these games, we're going to talk about the other in Iowa here momentarily. These four quarterbacks playing in these final two games are awesome. I mean, they really are. And I think this game in particular, they're almost carbon copies of each other. They're built kind of the same, and the way, the poise that they have, the understanding of their systems being what they are very, very good. And I'm telling you right now, folks, I mean, again, for small college football, you want to watch two really great quarterbacks. This game is going to happen. That know their systems inside and out and are athletic enough to extend plays, just do everything very well. And I'm very impressed with these two. I thought these two, again, you looked at, Chevalier had a great game too, last week, but I thought Shea Spencer was brilliant yesterday, and I thought Dooley was fantastic as well. And this game, this matchup with these quarterbacks, again, we're talking run game like Kaiser, but I think Shea Spencer is an X factor, and certainly I know for a fact Dooley has to be for the Ravens. And you mentioned, Jason, I think if Benedictine can stop Kaiser, in the run game downs, the early downs, and make Shea Spencer, who I think is more than capable of doing this, but at least having to make tougher third down conversions. It's not 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2s where Kaiser's going to just run up your tail and they're going to get 2 yards. If you're making it 3rd, 6th, 3rd, 7s, and you have the ability to match up and play man coverage and bring some pressure schemes at Shea Spencer, now we're talking, it gets real interesting. But I think you hit the nail on the head. That has to be number one if you're Benedictine. And they've done it against a very athletic team with Texas Wesleyan and a physical team this past week with Indiana Wesleyan. And they just played a running back just like Andrew Burnett.
Yeah.
The kid in Indiana Wesleyan, very similar. So, and again, he ran for 100 yards, but they still put Indiana Wesleyan behind the sticks quite a bit in third and long. And they did not perform well on third down at all yesterday, Indiana Wesleyan. It's because Benedictine did a great job, early downs enough to put them in tough third down and long situations. So this is going to be a very interesting game. And I'll bring one more point up, and I'll shut up. I promise I will eventually. The Ravens get to jump on a plane. You're like, well, this is great, man.
Yeah.
This is awesome. We're going to be in South Florida 2.5 hours. Sweet.
Kansas City to Miami, and then we just get our bag and we go to where we're supposed to go.
Less than 3 hours on a vehicle of some sort, place to we jump off a plane in 3 hours is fantastic. Not 14.
Yeah. I think both Morningside and Benedictine will feel that way. Like Morningside's going to take a bus, but 3 hours to Des Moines? Like that's not even their first pee break. It's like, oh, we're here. We'll just right. Go here at the school before practice, I guess. Yeah, it's the travel's going to be tremendously different for these teams. And going back to my final thoughts on Kaiser and Benedictine, great quarterback battle. I want to see what Shea Spencer will do against Benedictine. I want to see what Jackson Dooley is going to do against Kaiser. I think they're two of the best in the NAIA. Don't overlook the running backs in this game. Dalton Witherspoon has been carrying a big load this year for Benedictine. Burnett, Miller for Kaiser been doing the same. Will we see Meisinger again? I don't know. He was captain this last week at the last game, but he did take a ding in that first round game. So we'll see if they're going to have him back at all this year. So looking forward to it. Love semifinal football because it truly gives us an opportunity to see the best four teams in NAIA football. And two of the other ones reside in the state of Iowa. Granted, one just barely in that top sliver when the Morningside Mustangs up in Sioux City. They'll be traveling to Des Moines. They'll take on the Grandview Vikings. And these are two teams that in the last 20 years of NAIA football have been mainstays. Morningside has been in the postseason 21 times. Grandview has only been in the postseason 13 times, but they didn't start their program till 2008, so they had good reason to not have the run. But every year since 2004, Morningside has been in the postseason. They've been deep into the postseason, and them getting into the semifinals to play Grandview and have to go on the road, a little bit of old hat for them. I think this Mustang team is going to be prepared, but Grandview is well coached. They are going to be prepared for this game too. What a fantastic matchup to get these two in-state teams against one another in the semifinals, and the potential for a big crowd.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Great for the state of Iowa. I'm sure these schools cross paths in the recruiting to some level within the state. I know it seems like Morningside kind of goes more north and west with recruiting, and I think Grandview goes more south, but still in the state of Iowa. To me, Jason, I think the key thing in this, as great as these players are, I think it's a battle of what's happening right now in these coaching rooms. I'm serious. I think these are two of the best by far coach teams in the NAIA top to bottom. You are seeing the best defense statistically against a traditional power offensively. And I guarantee Coach Ryan and staff are sitting and coming up with concepts and making their lists and going to be very detailed, giving Chevalier and that group a tremendous game plan to go to war with against an unbelievable defense. Coach Woodley on the defensive side and that staff with the Vikings is saying, okay, we got our work cut out for us. This is the best offense we have probably seen all year. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be very, very interesting. I mean, we've not seen, if you're Grandview, it's like Benedictine again. It's a pretty darn good offense. It's going to be very intriguing how that chess match goes, I think. Morningside's offense against Grandview's defense. And then the other side of it is, look how well Morningside lately has played in that front seven. And I think that's going to create some issues for Grandview. And it's going to be on that senior quarterback and what can you do for us in throwing the football, and we're going to need you because I think, like you said, Jason, the undervalued Morningside Mustang front seven has been so good lately against the run. I think they're going to do it again. I really do against Grandview. And it's going to be on the passing game of Grandview. I do. So there's some interesting matchups here. I think the chess match, I think the coaching part of this is going to be awesome. Where I think maybe the other game's more of like the matchup, the skill players and the speed and the talent. In the other game, to me, this is like a coaching. If you watch great coaches go at it, this is going to be fantastic. Not to take away from the other game, you know what I mean, Jason. But these guys, I mean, Coach Ryan's won 3 national championships. He's an offensive guy. Morningside has a culture of great offense. Grandview has won a national championship. 2013, granted, it's been a while, but they're always in the mix, and they always have one of the best defenses in the country. This is a cool matchup for that reason. So it's going to be a great one. Looking forward to it.
Much like their game last week, Grandview going up against a team from Iowa, but not terribly familiar with them. The last time Morningside faced off with Grandview was in the 2021 semifinals, a game that Morningside won 38-28. Previous to that, they faced off in 2019. Also, believe that game was also in the semifinals. Morningside won that game 21-16. And the other time that they faced off against one another, 2013, where the Grandview Vikings blanked Morningside in the semifinals 35-0 before they went on to play Cumberlands in the national championship that year and win 35-23. So these teams not terribly familiar with one another, obviously, in the regular season, but very familiar with one another when it comes to semifinal football. And that just tells you the greatness of these two programs, that they're playing that deep into the postseason each and every year.
It's amazing with proximity. They played only in the semifinals. That's crazy.
Yeah. You kind of, some of that has to do with Great Plains Athletic Conference scheduling. They're playing 10 conference games, and Grandview had been doing that in the heart, so not a lot of opportunity for crossover. But I would love to see more of it. Obviously, that's my little plug.
Well, I wasn't even talking about that. I'm talking about, this tells you the type of teams they are. They're always ranked in the top 5. They're not playing in early rounds of the playoffs because of proximity. They're playing down the road.
My bad. Hey, we got good listeners. Misspoke. Was not semifinal in 2021. That was the championship game.
Oh, that's right.
It was the championship game. So bonehead me just going through all this way too quickly. I think Tim and Jordan and probably everyone else from Grandview that was watching this going, no, I'm kidding.
Jason, you only have like 30 years of like NAIA football history rolling through your head,
I should have had that one. That's a championship game. That's bad on me. It looks bad, looks poor. Bad effort tonight, Dannelly. Bad effort.
Hey, not bad for the old dude here pulling out. I knew 2013 they won the national title. Because I know why. They beat the crap out of us. We could move the ball. I still have nightmares trying to move the ball against those guys. They were freaking fantastic. So
and getting back to this year's game, teams this year have had nightmares trying to move the ball against Grandview. 8.1 points per game, total defense of 194 yards. Their offense very efficient. They get things done. They've got a slew of guys at the running back position and a slew of guys at the wide receiver position. There's not one of them that makes you say that kid's an All-American, but this sounds a little bit corny. They're an All-American when they need to be. We need a run. Give it to this guy. He gets the run. We need somebody to catch that 17-yard pass on a 2nd and long to get us a first down. They find a guy that does it. They don't have this, deep core or these, just studs on offense. They go out and they get it done. A lot of that is due to how good their offensive line is. For all-conference team, Heart of America North all-conference team, 4 of the 5 first-team selections were Grandview starters. And then on the second team was the other one, as well as the tight end. That just tells you how good they are up front and how quality this team is. But Morningside, they've got that fantastic defensive line that's going to be going up against these guys. This is an exciting game. I love this. It's a national championship caliber game for the Mustangs. And Grandview in this one, it just happens in the semifinals. It just tells you how good the football is right now.
No doubt. It's going to be physical. It's going to be cold in Des Moines. Great stadium there is at the MediaCom Stadium. That's really cool. It's going to be a great setting. And folks in Iowa, enjoy this. Go to this game. It's going to be fantastic. Bring your extra blanket, your electric blanket, and your your mittens, hot cocoa. But it's going to be a heck of a football game. It really is. Then the folks going to South Florida, it's a totally different deal, right?
Yeah. There was decent weather in Iowa this last week in Des Moines for the game. I haven't looked at the old 10-day forecast for Des Moines. I'll pull it up here on the old weather center. Here in the studio where we have the latest and greatest technology to be able to predict the weather. It's just one of the many things the Victory Sports Network can bring to you. 10-day forecast. Looking at Saturday, high of 40, low of 30. Beautiful. It's football weather in the Midwest. It's been an awesome game. As long as we can avoid snow and anything else that happens to creep into the forecast. Just be glad they're not playing on Wednesday of this week. It's supposed to be 4 degrees for your overnight low. But they can warm it back up for Saturday. So we'll have good weather for this game too. Predictions. Let's talk about predictions for this game. I've gone back and forth on this. I've written my article and I haven't officially, so I could change this 3 times this week. My gut tells me Grandview in this game at home. And I say that with a, gosh dang it, on the other side, you got this offense, puts up all these points, a great defensive line. They throw the ball all over. Steve Ryan's coaching over here. Kind of makes me nervous about that. But then I think about Grandview. They know all that. And what they've done all season long is just go into the game. Hey, Morningside might get up 14-0 in this game. But Grandview will stick to the plan and just grind this thing out. And I think they will get the victory and we'll see them in the national championship game. But man, this is a tough one to really say who is going to win this.
I never want to bet against Coach Ryan, Coach Jacobson. I think that they're the two of the best, the tandem offense and defensive coaches that have been together for literally ever. They're awesome, and they really are. And with that being said, I think this round, there's something about the home teams. I do think there is some merit to that, to look at that. And this defense is one of the best, maybe in NAIA history, potentially. And it's going to be one of the great challenges. This great offense, this coaching staff with Morningside going up against this defense. We talked about it before. I'm gonna say in a narrow victory, like a field goal game.
Yeah,
Grandview. I think this is going to be literally down to the wire. I just envision, Morningside, maybe with a ball with 2 minutes left, and Grandview's hugging a 6-point lead or something like that, something crazy, 3-point lead, and it's down to the wire, and Chevalier's trying to, drive the field at the end and put, Mustangs in an opportunity to win, and maybe they even get down there. But I just think that defense, just something about it, Jason, I think is special. Man, are they good. I mean, they're so physical. They defend the run so well. They are good enough in the pass coverage area, but the pass rush really helps that so much as well. But I'm telling you, Morningside will move the ball. They will score points. I don't think it was a game a few years ago you said was like in the 30s. I don't think it's going to be in the 30s. I don't see that. I think it's going to be in the 20s, somewhere in there, 28-24, 27-28, 28-27, something like that is what I'm thinking, probably on the high end. But I think it's going to be a classic. I think it's going to go down to the wire, and I think it's a field goal game. If I had to handicap this thing, would you say, Jason, 3 points at most? Two and a half? 2.5? I mean,
less than a score.
Really absolutely. Really tight.
Yeah. It's going to be extremely tight. This kind of gives us an opportunity. We got a lot of people kind of popping in with some questions. This gives us an opportunity to say, hey, official part of the show done. We'll get to your questions. We'll talk about a lot of things because I got some questions for Pat here as well. But let's get into it. One question coming from Jordan here: which front seven is better, Morningside? Well, they say Morningside or Northwestern.
Yeah, I was thinking that because I watching the game yesterday, Jason. I thought Grandview and Northwestern may have been the two best front sevens I have seen. Honestly, watching the game. And then you turn on later in the day, it's like this Morningside team, my goodness, especially that second half, rushing the passer. So I think that's a key component. Maybe on the pass rushing side, Morningside, maybe a tick better than Northwestern, but maybe Northwestern a little bit against the run, maybe a little better, maybe. I don't know. But watching that game yesterday, I thought those are the two best front sevens I've seen this year. Talk about Northwestern and Grandview playing against each other.
I think, and this is a cop-out, I think straight defensive line versus defensive line, I probably go Morningside. I think you put linebacker on linebacker, I probably go with Northwestern. And then the full 7, I think it depends on the matchup and everything. I think I might go Northwestern for that front 7. And if I say that, it's because of like one play I saw. Like you'll totally get proven
Very
wrong
close.
this week. So
Mhm.
Jeff joined late. Who'd you guys pick? Benedictine versus Kaiser.
Didn't really pick.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Kaiser. I think they're gonna get the win, the home game. I kind of fall back on that, and that's old hack, and that's like the easy cop out. But home field advantage means so much in the postseason, and especially watching how Kaiser has just kind of continued to get better and better. I'm going with Kaiser, but both of these games, whoever I pick, if the other team wins, I'm not going to be like, oh my god, did you see? It's like, yeah, they did that, and that's why they won.
If Benedictine can slow down the run and get their big plays, get Dooley going and get that offense going, create some turnovers like they did against Indiana Wesleyan, it would not shock me if they don't fly down to Florida and come out with a victory. It would not surprise me whatsoever. At the same time, I don't see that happening. I think Kaiser is extremely well coached. They execute at a high level. They're physical, both sides of the ball. They run so well. I would give the slight edge once again, I think, in a touchdown game to Kaiser. If I had to handicap this one, I'd probably put it 6.5. I'd put the other one at like 2.5.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I would put it to the advantage Kaiser, and I would take the home team. I'm going to take both home teams if I was putting a bet down, which I'm not, obviously. But I would put a bet safely on both home teams, in my opinion.
Want to throw one comment up here real quick. Tim was one of the ones that pointed out that it was the 2021 national championship. I know. But I want to – the reason that I know I was wrong is, one, I vaguely have known Tim for 20 years now, or not 20. That'd be too long. But about the time that Grandview started football, Tim was a fan on the Victory Sports Network and would send me, just random stuff occasionally about Grandview, send me an article. Hey, did you see this in the Des Moines Register? So I appreciate the lifers that have stuck around and been on the site for a long time. So thanks for the heads up there, Tim.
You gotta love the college football fans of the state of Iowa. No professional team. Everybody knows that. It is a college state. I mean, look at Iowa Wesleyan's great season, or excuse me, Iowa State's great season, Division I level. These two teams in the small college level. It's a great state for football, and I've been all over and played and coached and all over that state. And it's awesome. And this is going to be a great game in Des Moines, right in the state capital and right in the middle of the state. So folks from Iowa, go to that game. It's going to be awesome.
So Lyle earlier in the broadcast said, does size matter? Talking about the size of Grandview's offensive and defensive line. So yes, it does, and no, it doesn't. And the way I put it in the NAIA, sometimes having the biggest offensive line or biggest defensive line isn't a good thing, because if you're classic example, I had a guy email me, hey, my son's going to go play for such and such NAIA school this year. Cool, man. Like, why should I care? Well, he's 6'7", 385.
Ooh.
And I wanted to email, does he have cinder blocks for his feet? Because if he's that big, playing at the NAIA level, the kid can't move. No. He is
too heavy.
So that's where I say size doesn't matter as much in this level. Some of the best offensive lines that I've seen in the NAIA didn't have a guy bigger than 280. A lot of times 250 is that left tackle barely creeped up to 280, centers 245, 250, and they're just speed and power up front. So size does matter if it's good size at this level. If I look at an offensive line at the NAIA level and I see 6'2", 280, 6'1", 275, 6'3", 290, I'm going, those dudes are athletic and can move, and that's a dangerous offensive line, much more than when I see the numbers that you look at the Division I level that you go, oh, wow, 6'4", 330 at left tackle. If I see that at the NAIA, I'm going, attack that guy.
Jason, you nailed it. As no recruiting guy, that's 100% true. And I can't tell you how many times you will see an FCS, a Mid-American Conference team, insert mid-major conference around the country in Division I. They're going to take a shot on that 6'5" guy that's 310 if he can move at all. I'm just going to tell you. where to me, you nailed it. The best line of scrimmage players, this is both sides of the ball, are guys under 6'4" typically, I will tell you, at the NAI level. And you're going to see as good of players as the FCS level and even mid-major Division I, but those line of scrimmage guys are 6'1", 6'2". You're going to see as players they're that good, but they're just 3 inches too short. And Division I's have that prototype, and they're not going to play a 6'2" tackle. It's not going to happen. They rarely play a 6'2", 6'3" guard, let alone a tackle. And I know from experience, the Carroll College teams, our offensive lines, the best guys we had were 6'1", 6'2", 6'3". And they were unreal. They were just 2 inches too short for a larger level. And you're exactly right. If you get too big and you see 6'7", 6'8" guys at this level, you're like, something's going on there.
Yeah. I start getting the emails this time of year from the dads. Hey, can you help my son get recruited? Here's his stats. And it's like, one, no, I'm not. I got 97 teams at the NAI level. Which ones do you want to go to? Reach out to the head coach, find out who the recruiting coordinator is, send them the stuff. I'm not going to help that because every team at the NAI level is looking for players and not going to turn a guy down. If you want to play, you want to come to our school, you're going to have a chance. Like, well, you maybe come in as developmental player, JV player, whatever that, however you classify it. But if you want to play college football, a team will take you and try to develop you. It's as simple as that.
Any high school football player across the country, Jason, I'll throw this out too. Any high school football player that wants to play in college, there's a place for you.
Yeah.
It could be the Division III level, it could be NAI. There is a place for you to play. There's obviously different circumstances at each to play, but this is not water polo. I mean, football is a popular sport, and there's a lot of football playing schools around the country. You can play and definitely reach out to those schools. That's for sure. Because you're right, Jason. We're looking for players.
I can't believe this question hasn't been asked because it's been asked about every week of our show. And I was hoping somebody would put it in the comments so I could pop it up and say, Pat, this is what I wanted to talk to you about. NAIA Player of the Year.
To
the semifinals. We've seen a lot of really outstanding performances this year. Throughout the year, we occasionally said, that guy, man, he's one of the best in the NAIA. Oh, wow, that guy is the best this in the NAIA. As we go into the semifinals, I won't make you pick one, but you got a top 4? You got a top 3 for Player of the Year?
Help me out. I know Chevalier was the conference player of the year in the GPAC.
Correct.
Was Shea Spencer in the Sun?
Correct.
Okay, great. So you have to win the conference player of the year, correct? That's still the rule, correct? If I'm not mistaken,
Yep.
Jason. Who won it for Grandview?
Waring.
Did Waring get it? Okay.
Waring got it for
then
the
Dooley
north, and then I think Dooley got it for the south.
Okay, so good. We have a representative for each team. Right now, I would say Shea Spencer would be my vote because I think they're going to get there, and I think that has something to do with it. I really do. And if I had to stack the two quarterbacks up, if it's Kaiser and Grandview, I would give it to Spencer. With that being said, if Chevalier has the game of his life and goes and beats the great Grandview defense this weekend, I think he might be top of the list. So, those 4 have to be the 4 in contention. I think I don't see them going off the board of those 4. Do you, Jason? I can't think of anyone that just strikes me to say like Antoine, if he would have won that game but he's out. I don't see that happening now. I think the winner is going to be the representatives of these teams. Is there one?
I may have misspoke. David Haynes of St. Thomas earned the title of Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year.
Wow.
So,
what about defensive guys?
So, Defensive Player of the Year was Ty Lalogo from Kaiser. I don't think he's going to get the Player of the Year. Now, so this is where sometimes these awards, like, I'm glad they happen early so we can kind of compile them and everything. And granted, I have my own Player of the Year that I'll select, and obviously I'm going to watch the next 2 games. But if I had to pick one today, it would be Shea Spencer at Kaiser. Just watching the way he plays and what he's done for that team, how efficient he is, how he guides that offense, how he leads that team. I think he would be my selection right now, today, for Player of the Year. Things could change. You have a bad semifinal game. You end up maybe getting a great performance out of a Dooley or out of a Waring, or at a Chevalier. Like, that can really make you start to look and go, well, maybe somebody else here.
I think you just answered your own question, Jason. I think the quarterback that really does maybe has that career game and this huge setting, puts himself at the top of the list. I will tell you, we had a National Player of the Year, Nick Ferrer, back in 2017. He beat Morningside in the semifinals in one of the classic semifinal games ever, and he threw 5 touchdowns. Won the National Player of the Year because of it. I can tell you right now. That was what put him over the edge.
Now, in the Hart South, Jacob Gathright, the wide receiver, was the Offensive Player of the Year, was the Hart South Player of the Year, but the Offensive Player of the Year was Jackson Dooley. Mm-hmm. So it would lead me to believe the Player of the Year will get the nomination from the conference for the NAIA Official Player of the Year. I'd consider anybody and everybody and pick who I think is the best player in the NAIA at the end of the season. So a little different for me.
Is there anyone that's not represented this weekend that could be on the board still? Like, is it Darius Neal? Is it I think the running backs this affiliation are awesome. I mean, Quillen didn't quite have the numbers, I don't think, this season.
Yeah. You've got Gunnar Yates, who was the Player of the Year in the Frontier. Awesome. You've got Darius Neal. You've got a couple guys in the KCAC, but I don't think anybody's got the numbers to get them there.
Playoffs either. I don't think. You got to get there. You're not going to have a team that's, I think, not at least in the second round. Have a player that's going to be in contention, unless you just have ungodly numbers, and I don't see that really to the point where it's going to override any of the 4 that are represented in the finals. The semifinals.
Isaac Smith, Player of the Year for the Mid-States Football Association, Mid-East. So great player. Going to be tough to get that Player of the Year award. So there, it's kind of like Gunnar. I look at Gunnar Yates at Southern Oregon. He's first team All-American running back. Not going to be Player of the Year because you got to get it done in the postseason.
Lander Smith, a bunch of them.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be ironic if Morningside and Benedictine finished the season seeing each other in a repeat of the first game that came down to the last play of the game? I mean, that's the thing that we haven't mentioned. We have a shot for like what was basically the first game of the NAIA football season to be the last game of the NAIA football season. That'd be crazy.
Week 0 to the final. That'd be. I don't think it's going to happen. If it did, I think it'd be awesome. It'd be really cool. Great storyline there. Certainly a lot to talk about in our next show. That's for sure. That would be that'd be quite the story. Don't see it happening, but crazier things have happened.
And I'm not saying that each one of those teams independently isn't capable of the upset, but
no question.
That would be both teams getting upsets in the semifinals. I can't remember the last time something like that happened, where the lower seeds.
Long time. Can't think of one. And you're the encyclopedia of NAIA football, so I don't think so.
Yeah,
you would certainly know.
This book only goes back to 2004, so I'd start flipping through in front of everyone here. Or
sure.
No, this book actually starts in 2004. So I got a 20-year-old media guide next to me. Why? Because I'm a dork about NAIA football stuff. So, since we are in overtime, we've got through the overtime. That was the main question I wanted to ask and just kind of throw out there, and some thoughts on Player of the Year. I don't think we're forgetting any of the major players that would have their name in contention right now. But that will be the NAIA Player of the Year will get announced at the championship game banquet. I believe they still do it that way. All-American team from the American Football Coaches Association will be out in the next week. D3 announced theirs this last week. I believe D2 comes out Monday or Tuesday, and usually the NAIA follows later in the week after the D2 release. So All-Americans, postseason awards starting to come up. The Victory Sports Network All-American team, I will have that released after the championship game, depending on how I put it together, that following Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Problem is we get into Christmas. It is a horrible idea to try to do a press release for an All-American team on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. Yes, it's a great present out there for somebody to get, but hey, baby, I'm about page views and clicks now. I need page views and clicks.
Do we have time for our game yet, Jason, on the 21st? Is there a time? Because I know there's the Division I playoff schedule. By the way, is that awesome or what?
Yes.
As a college football junkie, it's so cool. We've done it for so long. You have the playoff system, obviously. Now Division I level does. And I'm telling you what, man, there's people in the Midwest just wetting their pants. You got Notre Dame and Indiana playing. That's awesome.
Yeah, that is
That's
huge.
like huge here. I'm looking at tickets, Jason, $1,200.
Yikes.
How big a deal it is. So, yeah. But
I
the
don't.
21st, we have a time. Is it kind of a flex deal with ESPN? What they're going to try to squeeze it in, or
I don't think it's. We got it down 12:00 Eastern is what the ticket site
That's probably
says right
smart
now.
because I think the playoff games are going to be evening games, Division I games. I'd love to see our game kind of be the appetizer, maybe. The national championship game. I don't know what the other levels are. I'm sure they're. I think is D3 always on the Friday night before? Is it the 20th?
Usually,
yeah.
Stag Bowl
The
on Friday
FCS
night.
was late now in January. So yeah, it'd be great. I think that's a huge deal. I didn't mind the Monday last year, but it was kind of weird. It's kind of odd being midday on a Monday. I'm not sure the viewership there. Guys like you and I obviously took off work to watch it, but I want to see get as many eyes on our product as possible. But it's going to be a cool deal. In the Great Triangle, North Carolina, it's an awesome place.
Had a question pop up here. Any major coaching changes coming yet? Always curious if any top program coaching will go somewhere else. There's some rumors. I'm not going to talk about any of them because I think one, you've got 4 of the best teams in the NAIA playing this weekend.
Yeah.
All of their coaches are capable of coaching at a higher level or another level. So I'm not going to sit here and be like, well, I heard this or that, or this guy's in consideration. I don't want to take away from the game. As for guys that have been, eliminated, as Pat knows, this is a trickle-down effect. We're starting to see the Division I changes.
Mm-hmm.
The guys are getting pulled into those positions. There's openings here. Guys will get pulled here from Division II and Division III and the FCS, and then guys will move up. And so we'll start seeing it. The NAI kind of, I think, has 2 major times for coaching. Usually the first week or 2 after the end of the regular season, those are the guys that are either resigning and got fired. And then post-coaches convention, because about mid-January, then we start seeing all these other staffs start to form, and then there's people moving around at the NAI level.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's such a tough deal. And it's why you see so many of the great programs hire within to keep the recruiting list the same and try to hold on to those recruits, because the NAI really does not follow the Division I early December signing day as much, Jason.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we're not on the national letter of intent. That's a whole other thing. But it's more of the early February date that matters to the NAIA, along with Division III and Division II still for the most part as well, where, the early December is more of the Division I level. But I tell you what, have you seen how crazy that's been now? So I think you'll see Division I schools firing coaches early, like even in mid-season, to find their replacement to keep recruits for that December date. That's what you're seeing a lot more now, where I don't think we're going to see that as much at our level because we're kind of focused more on the February signing day. But the big thing is you want to have those recruits. You want to have, if you have a list together that's quality, if you're a quality program, you got to figure that out pretty quick. Coach Sosha is one that pops in my head. After the national championship game, it was pretty close. I think around the convention time, he made the announcement he was going to Lenore Ryan, and hire within. Coach. It's a simple promotion up. For Coach down there to take over and look where they are now in the semifinals again.
And I think a big thing at the NAI level too, forget about the early signing date. The other thing that matters at the NAI level is retention and how many people aren't coming back from semester 1 to semester 2. I think that gets more guys, ran out of their programs, or one of the reasons why we see changes happening in January is all of a sudden you had a roster of 120. There's going to be some attrition, graduation. Okay, we're going into spring. You're at 80, 90 kids coming back maybe. Well, maybe now you've dipped below that number, and we're looking at the recruiting funnel, and you're going to need to replace 50 kids on roster to try to keep us at that number, or 60 or 70. We've seen that some places, and I think that plays in a lot more to teams at the NAI level, and why we see some coaches that get exited out sometimes halfway through a spring semester or at the beginning of second semester, because those retention numbers were not good, and we are in the business of enrollment-driven athletics at the NAI level, whether you like it or not.
Oh, I've heard that term so many times. Oh, it's kind of like nightmares.
Yeah, the coaches and the people working in athletics is heard me say that and they went, "Oh,
Just nightmare.
stop it, Danley. Stop it. Stop acting like you know something."
I
That's
do
what they're
feel
saying
even
right
worse.
now.
The Division III guys. Oh man, those
Yeah.
guys recruit till like end of June. I'm already on the next year. Come spring. But I was mentioning just the classic example of what you're talking about is Coach Russ being there. I mean, at Kaiser, just simple and easy to make that promotion. So it's going to be interesting. I don't know. I have you going back in history, Jason. You don't see a lot of guys leave the NAIA. Not as much as you'd think.
No.
I'm not sure the reason for that, but you don't see a lot of Coach Sosha getting Lenore Ryan job is almost unheard of.
Mm-hmm.
To go to a top flight Division II, that was literally were they in the national championship the year before or the semifinals?
Semifinals.
Semifinals. I mean, you're talking a Final Four team in Division II to hire the national champion NAIA coach. That's very rare. Usually, it's you got to go to a lower or a team that struggled at the Division II level typically.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about that in the past on air. Yeah, that's you don't see that mobility as much as you may think. And Coach Ryan, he's loyal to his program. I don't know how old Coach is. He's getting up there a little bit. I don't imagine him, taking off at this point. He's a Mustang coming through. He's gonna be like my dad now. I think he's gonna stay until retirement and gonna be where he is. So I'm not sure the other guys. Coach Woodley's been there a long time, I know, on staff. Now as the head guy. So I don't know. It's hard to say.
I think this came up in the chat earlier that I shouldn't mention Iowa State. Well, Coach Woodley's an Iowa State alum, and I think some fans might be thinking after yesterday's game, maybe get Coach Woodley up there to give him a shot, maybe.
Well, I think Coach.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, I know.
How do I only remember? It's like, the Mount Union guy.
Mount Union guy, 100%. Good Lord, I can't think either. Just our age. I can't pull names like I used to, Jason. That's
Nope.
one of the things of aging process I stink at. He's
Matt. Hold on, it's coming up. Matt Campbell.
Matt Campbell, yeah.
Matt Campbell.
The only one that makes sense to me for him to ever go would be Ohio State. I mean, that'd be the one that strikes me. But yeah, I would think Coach will be going as like a position coach or a DC.
Head coach, baby.
Okay.
Put him at head coach, I say. Kalen DeBoer,
that would be one hell of a price or a salary increase. I can tell you that much.
Yeah,
as a former NAIA guy and know what Division I head coaches make, that's quite the jump.
No, but it'll be interesting. There's a lot of quality coaches in the NAIA, and as long as if I see them leave, and I have my own opinion of teams out there and the programs and where they go, and I hate to see them leave, but most of the time I see them make a jump, and I go, all right, that's a good move. I like that.
To put in perspective, like you said, Coach DeBoer, Kalen DeBoer, look at that path to get to where he is. I mean, it's crazy. And now I will say he did it very quickly.
You just sparked something in my brain. Grandview played in the 2013 NAIA Football National Championship against University of the Cumberlands, who was the head coach of the University of the Cumberlands, John Bland. John Bland leaves there, goes to Mississippi College, ends up resigning last year. And what happens? Mississippi College announces this year they're dropping football.
Yeah.
Dropping football or closing? Just dropping football.
I think it's just dropping football. I thought it was maybe a closure too. No, it's dropping football. I did see that. But NAIA guys to climb the top, it's quite the climb. Back on the subject we were on. But
yep. Tim Albin now at the University of Charlotte, former Northwest Oklahoma State head coach. Mm-hmm. Bounced around, was at NDSU, was at Ohio for all those years with Frank Solich, and now is going to be at Charlotte as their head coach. All right, we've probably exhausted this enough and gone through the entire overtime. Appreciate everybody checking in. Any final thoughts, Pat, on this weekend's games before we send everybody on their way?
No, they're going to be classics. I love, being able to watch these live and going back and hopefully get the All-22 with Huddle once again. Those coaches can send us that tape. I would love to get into that. I've really enjoyed, diving into the schematics and, what these teams are trying to accomplish offensively and defensively. And you're seeing the different angles. I mean, the video is just fantastic. I mean, you're seeing, the coaches film and get to evaluate the line of scrimmage players as well as the perimeter players. So, we have, I think, right now the four best teams. They're the four hottest teams, I think, now too, Jason. You've looked throughout the season. We've kind of seen teams come and go, and some that have maybe fallen off here late. But these four right now are playing the game at an extremely high level. Their kids believe. The coaches are top of the line. It is going to be a tremendous, tremendous semifinal weekend, without question.
I don't think I could say it any better myself, Pat. I love the semifinal round. We've got some great matchups. I'm looking forward to it here this coming weekend. So thanks again to everybody for checking out the show, being a part of it. Of course, thanks to Pat for all of his work, for the analysis and everything coming in for this week, always making me look a lot smarter about the world of college football than probably what I really am. And of course, all the coaches and everybody that have helped to kind of move this thing along, get us the film and everything that we need, and promote it within their programs to their players, their parents, everybody there to make this show what it's been. So
I do have one final question before we exit here, Jason. Did ESPN call you about us doing the national championship game?
They did not.
Okay.
They did.
Because the dream, I'm telling you, man, you got me excited on that. It's like, man, that'd be so freaking cool.
It would be.
So we can get a phone call. I'm just checking. Okay.
Not
an email? No.
Okay.
No communication. That's too bad.
No.
Okay.
No, that's fine. Maybe down the road we'll start lobbying for it harder,
right.
But unfortunately not. We'll maybe do a watch along or something like that. All right. For Pat Donnelly, I'm Jason Dannelly. This has been NAIA Football with Dannelly and Donley from the Victory Sports Network. Get on out there, watch some NAIA football this week, folks. Have a good one. Later.